Hello, everybody.
Hello. That only took us 20 minutes this time.
If you can't tell, we are two very smart guys.
I'm Tarun Shetty.
And I'm Shawn Shetty. And together, we're shooting the Shetty. Cue theme music.
Wait, is it shoot the Shetty or shooting the Shetty? I think I mistitling these podcasts.
Oh, God. Shut it down. Shut it down. I don't know. It's whatever you want it to be.
Shawn,
Yeah.
now we talked about this. This podcast is blowing up.
So you're telling me we have more than 5 people listening to this?
YouTube, it's over 60 per episode. So,
Well, to be honest, 58 of those are mine.
oh, well. And the other 2 were mine. So, I guess.
We did it!
Anyways,
Yeah, all Russian bots.
So today's topic, set it up, Shawn.
Well, we're both fans of comedy, and we're both kind of weirded out by the current social climate going on with comedy. So I thought today's topic could be outrage of comedy.
Yeah. Well, I think when we say outrage, obviously this Michelle Wolf stuff in the news. But I think outrage in comedy has always been there, right? It just isn't kind of more sensitive now with all the PC stuff. But hasn't outrage always been there?
But it had to be really controversial. I mean, can you think of something off your head in the past in which a comedian said something and it just set everybody off?
I'm thinking like Sam Kinison must have said some stuff back in the day, or not Rickles, but just I feel like that's what comics do. They say things that aren't correct and call out stuff. They've always done that. Yet for some reason, how come all of a sudden it's a big deal?
Well, I'll give you 2 high profile cases of outrage actually causing a reaction. The first 2 that come off the top of my head is Saturday Night Live, where I think they had Andrew Dice Clay, and he did his routine, and it was a little too dirty for TV, I think.
Right.
And Martin Lawrence, I forget what he did exactly, but
he did a stand-up routine.
Yeah, and he was banned from the show. Again, maybe if you go back, this is the early 90s, so maybe it's actually acceptable now.
Well, those are great examples. And the Dice thing, he got banned because they thought it was misogynistic, right?
I think so, yeah.
So that's why he was the Martin Lawrence thing. I don't know why. Maybe he was just terrible. They were like, you can never come back. But today's thing, I feel like it's more politically. Everything's so political about. Hey, did you see that Rob Schneider quote, by the way?
With where he talks about SNL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you hear? Because this is what also.
What did you hear?
No, because this is what happens. The press takes up sound bites, and they don't really lift it word for word. They just interpret what the person is saying. So what did you hear he said?
Well, I read the full thing, his response, and he basically was saying that SNL, it's gotten too left-leaning where it used to be down the middle, and he wasn't taking one side or the other. And he basically was saying that Dana Carvey's impression of George Bush, back in the 90s was more done with like good humor and just a soft touch, while now it's more, there's a kind of ill will directed towards Trump, and so it's not as funny. Now, I'm not going to debate whether it's funny or not, but that's pretty much what he was saying, that comedy now, especially that show, he was focusing on that show particularly, that it's leaning way too far left and makes it not funny, for him anyways.
Well, what I took away from what he said, and I watched an interview where he talked about this. He said basically it's not as funny as it could be because Alec Baldwin has no affection towards the subject. So usually when you do an impersonation of somebody, it's coming out of some sort of love or something you like about their character and magnifying it. Like, Dana Carvey with George Bush, he liked his cadence and how he used his hands. And he had I don't think he was a Republican back then, but he didn't disagree with his character. But now with Alec Baldwin, he hates Trump. He's making a cartoonish mockery of his character. And they had someone else who could have done Trump, Daryl Hammond. So I think, SNL did go in a mean way.
So is he talking directly about that sketch or the show as a whole?
He's not talking about the show as a whole. He's just talking about Alec Baldwin's impersonation.
See, I disagree with that. I mean, I think funny's funny. I mean, funny can be different for everybody. Not just because Rob Schneider isn't funny doesn't mean it's not funny to the general public. I thought he's talking about the entire tone of the show.
No, he was just talking about Alec Baldwin's impression.
Well, then who made him ruler of comedy?
No, what? Well, Alec Baldwin agreed with him. He posted Rob Schneider's thing and said, "I totally agree with you."
It's done with cruel intentions, but doesn't mean it's not funny. I've seen some of that stuff.
No. He's like with Daryl Hammond. He's a master impersonator, and he's not really portraying. When he portrays Trump, he's not portraying him as this open mouth buffoon, which is the portrayal Alec Baldwin portrays. He portrays him accurately. The mannerisms, the way he speaks, and the way he's written is obviously buffoonish. And let's be honest, Trump is a buffoon. So
I love Trump.
He's about to get impeached. So,
yeah, almost when I watched that again, I'm not swinging left or right, but when I watched that Alec Baldwin do that, it's like watching Alec Baldwin. I do agree with Rob Schneider. It's like watching Alec Baldwin do Trump. Like, that's why I'm watching it. I don't watch it first of all, but when I did watch it, it was like, oh, this is famous actor doing an okay Trump impression. But I didn't think it was just unwatchable. I thought it was, it's decent, and I think totally Daryl Hammond could do a way better job. And I don't understand why he's not on that show anymore. He should just be on that show because he's the go-to guy.
Oh, he's the voice announcer.
Oh. Well, he should be on that show, man.
He was on the show for 8-10 years. Except
for his meth problems. Is that what he has?
Yeah.
Like carry him out in a stretcher or something. Anyway, I'm not laughing at Daryl Hammond, but it's kind of funny. So do you think there's a place? Do you think there's a place for outrage in comedy?
Well, no. It's also how people react to comedy. Like if you look at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, people were just making so much of a big deal about nothing.
What do you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was a roast. That's what comedians do.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was nothing to get, create an upstart about. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the jokes were there. I thought it could have been, for someone on The Daily Show, I thought, especially with her new show coming out on Netflix, I thought it could have been punched up way more. But
the problem is they're so truthful that they're more stinging than funny.
But what is a comedy show? I mean, aren't you supposed to make people laugh? Like, I don't understand. And it's not just her. Like, I've been to comedy shows where the comedian gets 0 laughs. Like 0. And it's just someone talking on stage. And it's like, what is the point of this?
You're talking about stand-up. This wasn't a stand-up act. This was a roast.
But even roast I don't know. I'm asking you.
Well, I
Are
mean,
roast supposed to
like,
generate? Are roast supposed to generate laughs from the audience?
yeah, yeah. And the problem is, maybe Michelle Wolf was actually a little bit too smart for her own good.
Yeah.
One of the things that people were upset about was people thought that she was making fun of Sarah Huckabee Sanders' appearance, but all she was saying was she uses burnt lies to make makeup, and that her character resembled that of someone who was repressive on a TV show. So it's like it's all just truths, you know.
Right. And I get that. I just didn't find, like, if you're going to go after someone, look, Jeff Ross does it masterfully. Like, he will eviscerate you, but it's hilarious for
Yeah,
me.
so
And
you're right.
it's
So yeah,
subjective though. You know, it's totally subjective.
no, no,
Maybe
no.
someone's laughing out loud at the roast thing, but I just thought the writing could have been better as a comedian. So maybe I'm not looking at it from a proper perspective.
Uh, yeah, I do think though, if it was Jeff Ross, because he's the master of the roast, he would have been able to pull it off. But I
So
mean,
you're saying women aren't funny. That's what you were saying, right?
what?
You said women should be speaking in the public. That's what you clearly are insinuating.
Fake news. Fake news. So anyway, what was that you're telling me about how you treat your dates?
Oh God, let's skip that. Well, what do you think of Hassan Minaj last year? I thought he was fine. Did you watch his thing?
Oh, I didn't even register. I didn't even know.
Because he actually got a lot of laughs. He did pretty well, and
Uh,
he was outspoken a bit.
wow.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So then, yeah, maybe it was just the comedian herself. I don't know.
well, I'm curious. Well, whatever,
Did
however we
you
feel
watch?
about it.
You watched last year's?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I didn't watch all of it. I just watched like the first like 10 minutes of it or 8 minutes, whatever
Right.
it was.
Wait, you think he did well?
I thought he was fine. I think he's got a very good point of view
Mm-hmm.
of, and at least you know exactly who he is on stage. Do I think he's hilarious? No, but I think he's funny. And
Tarun Shetty hates Hassan Minaj right here, folks.
no,
You
it's
should go.
well. So I gotta be careful. I mean, not that he's even going to listen to this, but like when I was in New York, I told you this. I was walking through New York and I ran into him and he's like, "Hey, Darren, what's going on?" And he's the nicest guy. He was so nice, and I was like, "Oh, I really do wish nice guys success." And I think the Daily Show, and I said this publicly, is a great platform for him. I think that's a perfect platform, and I hope the talk show is a great vehicle for him too. I think that's also an extension of who he is, and I think it's a great match.
Mm-hmm.
But being a bitter comedian,
Mm-hmm.
every other Indian comedian should be pushed off a ship.
Sounds about right.
Um,
So speaking of Indian comedians, there's also, of course, this other Indian comedian who's caused outrage in comedy.
Russell Peters. I don't know.
Right. No, but he took on a TV show, and
Oh God, we can talk about this guy again. Sorry.
well, no, we'll just briefly touch on him. Yeah, no, he used this forum to cause an outrage, which I think has divided a lot of people. Uh, you know, fine. One thing good he brought up was diversity in the Indian community in the media. Yeah, it's
Wait.
true. Not everybody has accents, but it's like, okay, we've been like 10 years now where you've seen young Indian Americans without accents. So why should people get upset about one Indian character who uses an accent?
Well, you know how I feel about that. It's also like let's just tie this back into Michelle Wolf because I feel like Michelle Wolf, however you feel about that, that's a great PR thing because her new show's coming out. Everyone's talking about her. So whether you like her or not, you might get more eyeballs on a new Netflix show based upon what she did. And even with this Hari thing, I think I've told you this. I don't know if it was like, a good media play because obviously it just elevated his standing in the comedy community. So who the hell knows why people do things like that? And Hari thing, the other guy, Adi Shankar, that producer, you sent me that link. What did that link say?
Yeah, Adi Shankar, the producer, who's also Indian, he said he was very outraged by Apu because he had accents when he grew up, so he had to change his accent to be American.
Who told you to change your accent, though? I mean, what? I don't understand that. Why would you change your accent?
Yeah, okay. You know what? Bullying is bullying. Kids are going to do that no matter what. Even if there wasn't a character called Apu. And he went so far as to put out a contest for spec scripts to replace Apu.
We should write a script.
Yeah.
And make it completely stereotypical.
No, yeah, just replace Apu with Bobby Khan.
Right.
Who's also very stereotypical and
I should do a Bobby Khan response to Apu.
Yeah. Dude, that's what Bobby Khan is for. I've told you that. He should be an outlet for how to respond to media.
We use him to generate hate in the Indian community. I have a theory. There's a festival. There's a festival in LA. I have a theory, and I let it go, that I feel like it was too stereotypical for this Indian film festival, and that pissed me off for a bit.
So for some background, Tarun wrote, produced.
I co-wrote it.
Whatever.
I'm just giving credit's due.
Right. This movie called Bobby Khan's Ticket to Hollywood, and he played a character called Bobby Khan, who's from India, comes to Hollywood to make it in Hollywood. It's a comedy, and the basic themes is being able to live your dreams no matter what. But Tarun played the main character with an accent. So, did you receive any comment about the accent?
I think I got a few messages, and pretty much when I get hate mail, I just play it off. I think I said it. I think I told someone he was autistic, and they stopped responding to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just play it off. People don't even mention it. In fact, actually, I had more positive emails, fan mails, than the negatives. So minuscule, but CNN India reached out to me. They covered it. So, and that's in India, so they didn't think it was offensive at all.
But you're saying some people did find it offensive?
It was under like 5. I'm not even joking, and I've gotten over 100 fan mails from random people who watched that movie.
Right.
And I just went to a festival, the Santa Cruz Festival, and people loved it. Obviously, it was all white people, but nobody found it offensive.
That's great. No, but you're saying there might be an Indian film festival that didn't enter it because it's stereotypical.
No, it's probably my own stupid stories I'm creating that justify. Probably nothing to do with that, honestly. I'm just saying that now.
Right. But they're okay. Indians could get offended by this movie, but overall, by large, it's a positive.
So that's a challenge we're throwing out to fans. Watch my movie. Tell us if you're offended or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Amazon, or you can just find it on YouTube for free.
There you go. There's your plug.
So stupid. Like, we charge, you can buy it on Amazon, but seriously, just look it up. You can find it on YouTube.
Tarun gets 0.001 cents for every hits on YouTube.
I don't even care anymore about the money. It's like, whatever. Like it. So So, have you ever gotten offended by any of this stuff?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's one comic called Nick DiPaolo.
Yeah, of course.
So he had a radio show on Sirius satellite radio, and a lot of his things covered right leaning agendas,
Mm-hmm.
and basically he was very insulting to ideas and people who didn't agree with him, and he played it off as like, hey, this is who I am, this is how the right acts, we shouldn't apologize for anything and all that. It's fine, whatever, but in the end he did get his show was taken off the air.
So, were you offended by what he did, what he said?
Sometimes, yeah, because he was just coming from I think a stupid point of view of that's why there's not a lot of right-wing comedians, where they attack left-leaning politics, but a lot of left-leaning politics is about diversity and tolerance. And when you go against diversity and tolerance, it makes you sound, the opposite of diverse and tolerant.
How come, and I don't understand this, how come when people get offended by comedy, they don't just shut it off or change the channel?
So if we're talking about left and right, a lot of the times when people on the right are offended by left, they have to make an uproar. Otherwise, they feel like they're losing.
Doesn't that swing both ways though? Because I'm on Facebook, I see both sides go at each other with like knife. Like this is like a gang war on social media, a knife fight.
Right, right.
And I don't. Is it because? And Chris Rock had a great joke. Remember this joke, and he goes, Everyone wants to be associated with a gang. Like they have to be a part of something. Maybe it's like an identity thing where it's like their own ego. They've got to like identify with something to like make them. But like if I don't like something, I just shut it off or just change the channel and it's done. But people get so immersed in it.
Yeah, I think maybe with social media now, everyone feels like they have the power to change things. So like if you
and they do, they really do have power to change things.
Yeah. If you see something on a program, you could say, hey, I didn't like that. If you don't stop airing that, I'm going to stop buying the products you advertise, and we're going to boycott you and everything, which it could work. It has worked in the past.
You want to talk about outrage in comedy? I don't want to say his name, but I opened up for a comedian, and he was rated R act, and they wrote an article in a newspaper about him, and he got banned from that college. He can't go back there because somebody wrote an article, and I was at the show. 99.9% of the audience had an amazing time. Everyone he killed, and that 0.001% got offended by some joke, and she went home and wrote a blog or something and got him banned from the school, which takes money out of the guy's pocket. I mean, they're paying $6,000-7,000 for the show, and he can't go back there ever again.
Was this comedian Bill Cosby?
His name was Carrot Top.
That's okay. If you were talking about left and right politics, the right can sometimes have a point where, you can't just bow down to one single person or small group who have outrage over something, and ruining it for the rest.
Regardless, left or right, I feel like sometimes it just gets out of hand. Where
I mean, that's what Seinfeld said, where he says he won't play colleges because too many people get offended.
He's right. He's absolutely right. I think Carlin. It's an old interview with Carlin from the early '90s, and he was saying, and he was the guy who taped a couple of his specials at these colleges. He stopped playing them because he was like, they're too PC. This is George Carlin. It's a comedian for people who don't know anything about comedy, but you really should know who George Carlin is. So I don't know, man. I think it's gonna get worse from here
out. Is there something you might have heard in a comedy? What's it called? Comedy club that you took offense?
No, I told you this. Nothing offends me.
No. Okay, not offend you to say something, but in your mind, it registered as, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe you shouldn't have said that, but whatever.
Oh, I can tell when an audience, when it's um, too offensive for an audience. I can totally read that. But me personally, does not offend me. In fact, there are jokes in my act, which I'm trying to just clean up a bit. If I start off, like I can do those jokes in the middle, like once the audience knows me that I'm a nice dude, whatever. But if I start off with those jokes the first 5 minutes, like I lose the audience. I can't do those jokes because it's too over the line. So there is like this threshold you have to be aware of and then tread that carefully. And some guys, look, some guys, Bobby Slayton, even Dice Clay today. A lot of guys just don't care. They do whatever the hell they want on stage. But for the majority of comics, you have to set the tone of how the rest of the show is going to be. Like that's why it's an art form. You've got to learn how to read the audience, and I actually like watching comics. It's hilarious to me.
So have you ever seen like a right-leaning comedian who got booed or something like that? Or
no, I don't actually. I don't see any political comedy. In fact, I know one guy who's really political, and he doesn't even talk about it on stage for a smart reason. Because look, Hollywood is left-leaning, so that could cost you a lot of work. Like if you start spouting out about you're pro-Trump, I mean, come on, that can cost you a lot of work. In clubs, colleges, bookings, castings.
It depends on where you play too, because I remember I think Dennis Leary puts on a annual show in Boston for a lot of working class people, and he had I think Wanda Sykes on, and this was last year. And so she obviously told a lot of anti-Trump jokes, and she got booed off the stage, and people hated her. And of course, there was outrage on social media. So it's like,
remember that.
So, yeah, it's like maybe you can just talk about anything as long as it's not politics or religion.
Well, I think it circles back to knowing your audience. If you're playing the Bible Belt and your audience is conservatives or rednecks, okay, go ahead, do those jokes because that's what the audience wants. Okay, or if you're playing a college, like in some liberal college, and you want to do anti-Trump jokes, do that. Whatever. I mean, know your audience. But when you walk into the den and do the exact opposite, exact antithesis of what they want or expect, well, what do you expect? I mean, you can't win them over.
So it comes down to this: as a comedian, do you decide not to cause outrage, or do you want the outrage? Because you're saying you should cater to your audience. That means you want to avoid outrage. But then if your act has these jokes, maybe you want that. I mean, who's a good, like, I don't know, maybe if there was like Andy Kaufman who was doing stand-up, he would have, he liked the outrage, he would have gone to a liberal college and told conservative jokes or something.
Yeah.
So do you keep it in your act, or do you?
Well, I want to be clear. I'm not saying pander to the audience. I'm not saying that. Mm-hmm. I am saying do what you want to do. And you know what? A comedian gave me some great advice. He goes, even if the whole audience hates me, like 3 people like me, that's a huge thing. 3 people is a huge number because even if 3% of America likes you, you're a billionaire. You're winning. All you need is to find your fans. Once your fans know who you are, they'll come out and support you no matter what. I'm just saying, don't walk into a place and okay. Here's just a very bland example, generic example. When I do Indian shows, like straight up, like fresh off the boat Indian shows for people who are like have never seen a comedy show, I have to do Indian material. Like I have to. There's no way I'm gonna get any laughs if I don't do some Indian material, right? This might be a bad analogy, but I do it just so I can kind of survive on stage, and then I mix in and sprinkle in my regular act. That's how I do it. With politics, I don't think you can do anything that's against the political grain. Does that make sense? You have to do things that are either down the line or that's gonna fulfill the audience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
I zoned out for about 2 minutes, but yeah.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how I am on stage when I do need audiences. I just zone out and I just black out like an escort. Are you eating, by the way?
Maybe.
This political talk makes me hungry.
This podcast brought to you by Future Gang Bars.
We don't have any sponsors, guys, so if you want to sponsor this podcast, please reach out to us.
If you'd like to funnel money into our program.
Or samosas.
Send samosas to West Hollywood.
So you can Venmo samosas to us.
That's a new app. So have you...
Let me flip it on you, though. So, do you enjoy political comedy, or do you enjoy guys who are like angry on stage?
Yeah. Like
what about Lewis Black? How do you feel about Lewis Black?
Yeah, I was just going to say Lewis Black. Yeah, he's great because he,
what happened to Lewis Black, by the way? The guy. What happened to that dude?
He's playing in Boston, actually.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen him in like 10 years. I haven't seen him since The Daily Show.
No, he's had a lot of specials. Yeah, no. Comedy is great when you get to the truth of it. That's what he does. And, you can make fun of anybody, make fun of Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Obama. As long as you know what the truth is and what the joke is. And, yeah, you're right. I think it all comes down to tribalism. For some reason, it's increased a lot. I always think when people get outraged when you say something against Trump, it's like, wait, are you related to him? Did you owe money? What's the deal here? It's like, do you personally know him? It's like, Trump doesn't care about you. Most politicians, they don't know you. They're just doing what they have to do.
Right.
So when you defend them with your life or scream at somebody for saying something, it's like, why? You don't owe them anything.
Yeah. Well, I do think there is a place for that in comedy. If everybody's inhibiting their own voice on stage, then you're gonna have like 1,000 Jeff Dunhams walking around with puppets. Like, comedy's see this bland, banal entertainment, which is that's why comedy is great, because there's that freedom to do whatever the hell you want. Now, whether you get punished for that, that's a whole other question.
That's a good question. Should there be punishment? Can a comic go too far?
No, there should be zero punishment.
All right, like let's say Kathy Griffin, she's a comedian. She did that photo shoot with Trump's beheaded head. Everybody blacklisted her. And, no one thought it was funny. But that was the outrage. And, the people on the right side did everything they could to make sure that she didn't work. Is that the appropriate response?
Well, I think she has the freedom to do whatever she wants on stage and on her social media. And likewise, advertisers have free reign to do whatever they want, how they respond to it. So if you do that, yeah, totally. But I totally support what she does on stage. But you have to understand, it's like reading an audience. People are going to get offended. There's no way. Not everyone's lived their life in a nightclub, and they have no parameters on what offends them or not. So you're walking into a danger zone, and you're going to risk. Now, look, that actually might have helped her career in the long run, because maybe that increased her profile, and maybe she got more fans of it. I don't know.
Well, actually, so I heard her on the Howard Stern show, and she said she got more bookings outside the country.
Yeah, so there. I mean, so who's to say? I mean, really, who's to say any of this? And there's a guy named Jim Jeffries who's I heard this guy selling out like soccer arenas overseas, and he does not give a shit what he says on stage.
Right. No, he's a very good comedian as well.
Yeah, Mark Maron. There's a bunch of guys who just no filter on stage. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's a bunch of comedians who do play by the rules, and it's like Jim Gaffigan or whoever, and they do just as well. So,
well, I don't think they're playing by the rules. That's their
it's their brand of comedy.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I don't think there's. I think you should be allowed to do whatever you want on stage. Otherwise, God, what's his name? He got arrested.
Bill Cosby.
No, in the 70s. Sorry, I'm just blanking on his name. He's like one of the it'll come to me. In the 70s, I forget. Even not Bill Hicks, who's also another guy.
Oh, I was going to say Bill Hicks.
By the way, are you familiar with the Bill Hicks Letterman thing that happened?
No.
So Bill Hicks, great stand-up comedian, he died of cancer like at 34, 35. He was really young when he died. But he did Letterman, and he was known for having this really outspoken voice, and he did Letterman, and he did this joke about he basically did Letterman and didn't air it. They found it too offensive. And one of the jokes he said was about the cross. We wear Catholics wear crosses around the neck. And he's like, well, you think Jesus wants to see a cross if he ever comes back to life? Something to that extent.
Hilarious.
It's hilarious, yeah. So anyways, they didn't air it. And 20 years later, Letterman aired it. And he had Bill Hicks' mom on the show, and he apologized. He personally apologized to Bill Hicks' mom, and he goes, "I'm sorry. I'm the reason why it never aired," and we apologized to Bill. So they aired it, I think 5 years ago, whatever. But it was a different time back then too. It was probably more sensitive, but they deemed that too offensive to their advertisers and audience. But you know what? I love Bill Hicks, but look, man, you're doing Letterman. That's especially Letterman 11:30 at night back in the day. That's a very mainstream show. So, I mean, you choose what you're gonna do. You can say whatever you want on stage, but the TV show has the right to air whatever the hell they want to air. Mm-hmm. So you gotta factor all this stuff. It's still it's called show business. It's not just say whatever the hell you want.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like you said, you have to know your audience. What would you say if a comedian puts out a CD or they put an audio special out and they say controversial stuff? No one has the right then to say anything, right?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of my comedian friends, they make, 60, 70,000, which is good money on the side. And they air their comedy specials. They record CDs or whatever, and they air it on Sirius. Now, Sirius is really particular about what they air because it goes out to a lot of mainstream areas, right? So they only air clean comedy. You can't curse, can't be offensive. So a lot of comics, they put together these really clean sets, and they record them so they can make money. Now, again, you can record whatever you want. It's your right. And maybe you have a huge fan base, like Jim Norton, or whoever, Doug Stanhope, and your fans are going to buy those CDs. But if you're a comic coming up, it's in your best interest to be clean for these CDs because you can make a lot more. You can make a lot of money. In fact, there's a comedian. I don't even want to say his name because, anyway, I think you might know who he is. But he's a comedian that makes a lot of. Huh?
You cut out because your mom called me.
Oh.
But I'll call her later. Actually, you want to add to the podcast?
Yes, hey, come into the show. My mom.
Special guest.
She's like, Call me. I spoke to her this morning about comedy, about Jim Jeffries and whatever. I was going off on a rant about this comedian who's very clean, but he's terrible. He makes a lot of money.
Well, I mean, it's subjective. You might think he's terrible.
No, he's terrible.
And his name is.
Yeah, he's a sociopath, so I don't want to say his name.
Joe Davola.
Actually, this podcast is going to reach a point where I just start naming names because, who the hell cares at this point? But
name names.
Problem is I see these guys here and there, and then I don't want to, start shit.
They're going to call you the bad boy of podcast.
At the same time, who cares, right?
Who cares?
So,
we can end this podcast by you telling us your favorite controversial joke.
I don't know if it's even. I don't care. I'll say. I don't. You know what? I don't know if I should say it actually on this because I don't want to
alienate the audience.
No, I just want the soundbite. Like, if I'm booked at some. It's not even my joke.
Yeah, just reference it. Whose joke is it? And you're just repeating it.
Let's. I can't even.
Let's cause some outrage, man.
No, because this is gonna cost me work. It's gonna take money out of my pocket if I say this. Because I know how the internet works. All you have to do is edit it, and then all of a sudden it's my joke, and then this is gonna cost me a TV show that I made. I just made a TV show, and I don't want to. I don't want my career going away over someone else's joke. I will tell you off the air. But look, there are offensive jokes, and just know that it's a joke. We can choose what we pay attention to. You don't have to take it personally.
What if the joke is specifically talking about you?
You know what? So, you know how many times I've tried to start fights so I can get some heat or some, but I'm too likable. Was there a joke that you have found offended as a consumer of comedy?
For me, the best jokes are visceral. Like they hit you right away. And if I find something
like Gallagher when he smashed the watermelon.
Exactly. I think obviously Louis C.K. Might not be well regarded now, but he's still a great comedian. And
oh, dude,
I think he told a joke on SNL. It was funny, but
a joke.
The way it landed may have not have been so good. So I'm like you, where I don't get personally offended. The only thing I'll get personally offended is some white guy uses a stereotypical Indian accent. No, but to make fun of somebody. I think I've heard that very rarely, but that's about it.
Well, when I hear someone do an Indian accent and there's no look, it can be funny, but if I hear this like Indian accent without there being a punchline, I just discount it as this guy's not an experienced comedian. He's just some guy trying to grab for straws. But I did recall an offensive joke that I found hilarious, which I would love to tell, which I might have actually told you before. But Mark Maron did it on one of his early Lettermans. You can probably find this. I'm surprised they even aired this. But he closed with this on his Letterman set. He was talking about hooking up with underage girls, right? And he goes, would I want to hook up with an underage girl? Of course I would. That's why there's a law. And he goes, good night, ladies and gentlemen. He closed with that. That takes balls to do that, man, on national TV.
Right.
And, I guess they were like, well, we did the Bill Hicks thing. I guess we're going to air this too. So.
See, I don't know why people would find that offensive. Seriously, I don't.
Pedophiles love that joke.
No, because it's speaking to a truth that people don't want to think about or talk about. Where
I know that's the brilliance of that joke. That's why I love it. I mean,
it's like otherwise, if you didn't have a law, all men would be doing this, and they already do it in some sort.
Dude, men still do it. I mean, you see 50-year-olds dating 20-year-olds. I mean, it's 30 years younger. I mean, it's legal, but I mean, okay, this is a whole other topic. But what's the difference between 18 and 19, or 17 and 18? It's like there's a fraction of difference. Yet there's like a 8-year jail sentence that goes along with that.
Yeah, so, I think Tarun is trying to cover up something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you told the judge? Seriously, what's the difference between
Yes. It's my blog that I'm writing.
Well, this next podcast will be from jail when Tarun is arraigned on child pedophilia.
Well, there's phones there, so we can do it through the glass.
Nice.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We hope you enjoyed that. Please, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask us, please message us, and we'll read it on the air. So we encourage you guys to write in. Whether you're listening on Anchor or YouTube or Spotify, iTunes, whatever, we appreciate it. And we'll be back with more stuff.
Send money.
And samosas.
All right.
All right, Shawn. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.